My guess is that you are in a different season of motherhood now. Maybe your kids are older, maybe they're getting ready to leave the house, maybe they're already adults. And somewhere along the way, you have started to notice this really quiet reflection showing up for you. It's not loud, it's not dramatic. It's actually very, very subtle. You have begun to see things a little more clearly now. Clear in a way you just couldn't when you were in the thick of it. When you were surviving, managing, juggling the kids and school and schedules and bills, the house and work and everyone else's needs. And that right there, that is important. Because back then, you didn't have the space or time to reflect. You had to function. And so before we go any further, I want you to know this. These reflection audios that I've created for you, they're not meant to be listened to in order. There is no starting point here. And if a title pulled you in, that's where you're meant to begin. And one last thing before we start. This isn't about fixing the past. It is about understanding it. Understanding it without punishing yourself for what you couldn't see then. Okay? Let's begin. There's a moment that happens for a lot of us mothers in this season. You finally start slowing down long enough to see not just your kids, not just the dynamics, but yourself. And at first, that awareness that you start coming into feels like growth. It feels mature, responsible, honest. But then it's like something shifts. And that awareness starts to quietly turn inward. And instead of curiosity, it starts to become interrogation. See, you start asking questions that don't actually lead anywhere. Questions like, did I do enough? Did I miss something important? Did I mess them up? And if I had known what I know now, would things be different? And then before you realize it, you are no longer reflecting. You are putting yourself on trial. And I want you to know this isn't just something that I have seen in myself. It's something I see over and over again in the mothers I work with. These are thoughtful women, caring women who didn't just check out, women who were paying attention to their children and their families. And yet, once awareness comes online, they don't actually feel lighter, they feel heavier. Because see, instead of using insight to guide their present, they start using it to actually prosecute their past. But see, that's not indifference, that's over responsibility. And I want to say this plainly, that not all self-reflection is healthy. Again, not all self-reflection is healthy. And not all accountability requires self-interrogation. Because at some point, your reflection stops being about learning and it starts being about control. Control over the past, control over meaning, control over outcome. But here is the hard truth. You cannot audit your way into peace. And if constantly reviewing your past made you a better mother now, it would have worked by now. And see, for many mothers, interrogation feels like responsibility. Because somewhere along the way, responsibility got defined as, if I don't keep questioning myself, then I am being careless. So you keep scanning your memory, replaying these conversations, reevaluating your decisions, not because new information is coming in, but because your nervous system doesn't trust rest. Rest feels irresponsible. Peace feels suspicious. And that didn't come from nowhere. It came from years of being the one who had to think ahead, the one who couldn't afford to miss things, the one who carried the consequences. So, of course, awareness didn't know when to stop because it never learned the difference between responsibility and punishment. See, in my coaching work, this is usually the moment where I start to slow things down because what looks like responsibility on the surface is often fear underneath. Fear of missing something, fear of having caused harm unknowingly, fear of resting too soon. And fear will always ask you to keep digging even when there's nothing new to find. And that is a very important distinction because fear sounds convincing. It uses responsible language. But see, it doesn't lead you towards wisdom. It keeps you stuck in vigilance. Now, in the ownership side, with ownership, it's not asking endless questions about the past. Ownership is asking the right questions in the present. See, interrogation, it goes back to what did I do wrong? Where did I fail? How do I make sense of everything that already happened? But ownership asks, what does my awareness require of me now? That shift in questions matters. One set of question collapses inward and the other moves forward. See, ownership is active. Interrogation is static. And one of the things that I talk about a lot, especially in parenting, is how much language matters. This isn't just what we say to our kids, but also what we say to ourselves. When that language inside your head sounds like prosecution, your nervous system does not hear growth, it hears danger. And no one interrogates wisdom when they feel under attack. So if your inner dialogue sounds harsh and relentless and unforgiving, that, my friend, is not accountability. That is a threat. And threats, they don't produce change. It produces collapse or control. Now, I want to be very clear about accountability because this matters. Accountability does not mean staying emotionally indebted to the past. It doesn't mean carrying this lifelong guilt or withholding joy or doubting every instinct you have now. Okay, accountability means telling the truth without exaggeration, staying open to feedback now, adjusting behavior now, and repairing what's actually in front of you. See, accountability lives in the present tense. Anything else is rumination. Rumination wearing responsible clothing. And I hear this from mothers who say, well, I'm healing, but I question everything. And see, they've learned about the nervous system. They've learned about emotional safety. They've learned about boundaries. And instead of feeling grounded, they now feel destabilized. Because, see, they think, if I raised my voice, did I permanently wire something wrong? If I didn't regulate perfectly, did I damage them? And here is the truth. Human beings are not that fragile. Children are shaped by patterns, not moments. By presence over time, not isolated mistakes. By repair and not perfection. And yet, so many mothers live like every misstep was catastrophic. That is not humility. That is fear asking for certainty it will never get. And here's something many women don't realize, that self-analysis can become a coping strategy because it gives the illusion of control. It keeps you busy. It makes you feel productive. However, it also keeps you stuck. Because while you're analyzing the past, you are not fully living in the present. And the present is the only place where repair and growth and connection actually happen. See, your child doesn't need a mother who keeps reviewing the footage. They need a mother who is here now and present. And this is often where I remind the women that I work with that insight is meant to support your life, not consume it. Because if awareness isn't leading you towards steadiness, it's probably asking too much of you. So I want to bring all of this back around. Because if you're listening to this and realizing, wow, I have been interrogating myself in the name of responsibility, I don't want you to stop being honest with yourself, but I do want you to stop being cruel to yourself. Because awareness is meant to inform your life, not imprison it. And ownership doesn't ask you to live on trial. It asks you to live awake. And you're allowed to take responsibility without turning your past into some crime scene. You're allowed to grow without disowning the mother you were. You are allowed to rest without betraying the values you chose. I want you to let awareness soften into wisdom. And then let responsibility live where it belongs. Where it belongs in how you show up now.